Welcome to r/nuclear revenge, where a guy screws a donkey. Our next Reddit post is from the bonus. I'll be honest, this story isn't mine, but about my two cousins, Alex and Steve. My mother is originally from a small town in the coastal region of my country. She left when she married my dad, but her two sisters stayed in the town. Alex is one of the sons of my youngest aunt. Steve is the son of my oldest. When they grew up, both moved to a big city in the region for college, but took way different paths. Alex went into an art-focused career and after 2 semesters came out as gay, while Steve went into STEM and bathed himself in the machismo/homophobic culture of the region. You can guess they weren't exactly close, and as far as gossip goes, they pretty much hated each other. As far as Alex's sexuality went, it was a well-known secret among the cousins and his brothers. All teens and young adults. People with social media, basically. But it was never acknowledged in front of my grandma, the other adults, or even his own parents. Now, let's get to the drama that unleashed on December 2017 at our family's Christmas party that, as always, took place in my grandma's old townhouse. By midnight, Steve was drunk and looking for a fight, and he thought Alex would be the perfect prey. While these aren't the exact words, you could say this was the statement he shouted in the middle of the dance floor. Hey, Alex, where's your girlfriend? I don't see her around. Oh, yeah, you don't have one. Why's that? Hey, auntie, you know why your son didn't bring a girlfriend? Haven't you heard? Oh, that's because he's a sissy F-word. He screws guys, or not, he lets them screw him, like the little B-word he is. Alex was speechless, and so was the rest of the family, including my grandma. The musicians even stopped the music playing. But before someone could even say something against Alex, he threw the bomb. At least I screw with humans, but let's not forget that your first girlfriend was the neighbor's donkey. You even tried to force me to screw her once, didn't you? All hell went loose. You see, in this particular area of my country, there's the extended myth that some men, especially teenagers, commit bestiality with donkeys. And in rural areas, it's not entirely untrue. But it's obviously never spoken that openly or casually, especially when there are outsiders present. Outsiders like Steve's girlfriend from college, whom he'd invited. The poor girl literally threw up in the middle of the party while she started soothing herself and crying like there was no tomorrow. To make an already long story a little shorter, my parents, thankfully my dad doesn't drink and could drive, offered to take her back to the city. We left the party in the middle of the shouting, punches, someone fainting at some point, and whatnot. But I wouldn't post this here if the story ended there. Steve's now ex-girlfriend told what had happened to her city friends, to her parents, and basically anyone who would like to hear it. Steve was already known as a donkey f***er all around the campus before he even came back from vacation, and his social life crumbled to dust. There was also a lot of cyberbullying involved, and he ended up quitting the university. He went back to his hometown and is currently the owner of a bar. He also married a local woman, if anyone wonders what happened to his love life. On the other hand, Alex ended school and he stayed in the city as a designer. His homosexuality was basically overlooked by everyone, for obvious reasons, and he's in fact my very Catholic grandma's favorite grandson. The funny part of it all? With time, this has basically been swept under the rug in my family. We still hold Christmas parties at the old townhouse. Alex and Steve keep their distance, but can actually speak to each other without murderous intent. And we all agreed to forget what happened in December 2017. We all forget, except for OP, who decides to publish it on one of the world's most popular websites. Also, down in the comments, John Cial asks what I was thinking. So wait, did your cousin actually screw a donkey, or was everyone just willing to accept that it was something he'd do? And OP replies, I think he was quite shocked and drunk at the moment, and he forgot that he could, lie. And instead, he started saying things like, I can explain to his girlfriend. So yeah, he basically admitted to doing it. How do you even explain that? What's the explanation? Well, I heard someone tell me that when you get laid, you get a piece of ass. And donkeys are called asses, so I thought I'll just screw with the donkey. Someone told me that you can ride donkeys, and I was like, wait a second, does he mean ride as in screw it? I guess there's only one way to find out. Our next Reddit post is from the Freaky Child. This is more my grandfather's nuclear option than mine. My aunt on my father's side is the definition of a piece of work. She's always used people and is plainly only out for herself. Damn the consequences. My grandmother and grandfather, which are her adoptive parents, had their own list of issues like anyone, but they were good people. Salt of the earth types. They always tried to do what was right and help however they could. This led to my grandparents bailing out my aunt of filing her bankruptcy on a couple of occasions because my aunt simply could not live within her means. And on top of that, she has a history of just being a really awful person, like stealing my grandfather's social security checks and retirement checks when it suited her. My grandmother died suddenly in 2001. And I remember my aunt being really childish that she didn't get anything, as my grandmother's will stated that everything goes to my grandfather unless he passed first. Like, basically every other married couple would do. My grandfather, shortly after, sold the house and land and moved about a 3-hour drive north in our state. I was 15 at the time, and my aunt's toxicity threw this really dark shadow over the whole family in my eyes. In my youth, I didn't realize at the time that my grandfather moved away to get away from his own daughter. I dropped contact with my grandfather thinking that he abandoned me too. I regret that to this day. Refusing to interact with my aunt also meant that I fell out of contact with my cousin. Anyhow, a few years later, my grandfather reached out to me and my cousin asking us to come visit. We did, and it was a great time. We reconnected. My aunt never really knew about that. It was all water under the bridge, so to speak. The years go by, and I still couldn't get over myself, and once again fell out of contact a few times. About 6 years ago, my cousin calls me, saying that my grandfather is living with him now and that he has dementia, that he probably doesn't have long. I was out of state at the time, so I booked the very next flight that I could and raced to see him. My grandfather was able to recognize me, and called me by a nickname that he always used for me. That was the last time I ever saw him alive. He died early in the morning a couple of days later, and my cousin and I had to go to the funeral home to set up the burial. Turns out, my grandfather had already set up the funeral, and had paid it off in full several years prior. All we had to do was sign some papers. Because we weren't his most immediate family, they needed my aunt to sign off as well. So, as much as I hated the idea, we set up a family meeting at the funeral home. We warned the director that she would try to change things, but to not let that happen, because she couldn't pay the difference anyhow. True to form, during the meetings, my aunt changed everything. From the type of casket, to the service, to even wanting members of the military there for a 21-gun salute. My grandfather was a Navy man from 45 to 65, but he never saw active combat. My grandfather was a simple guy, and always chose the cheapest option of everything. The funeral director took it all in stride, and said that the difference was something like $16,000. And looked directly at her and said, "We take cashier's checks." The look on her face was priceless. After the service, about a week later, my cousin found my grandfather's will. So we had another family meeting, this time with my grandfather's longtime lawyer friend. My grandfather left behind his house and land to be sold, and the proceeds to be donated to charities after any debts owed from the estate were paid off. A little over $55,000 got donated across several charities in his name. He also left nearly all of his other belongings to my cousin to split with me as he saw fit. And he left my aunt $10 to be paid on the event of his death. Later, it was explained that he left her $10 so that she wouldn't have any recourse to challenge the will. If you don't name a living immediate family member, they can challenge the will through some legal process. We found out as well that he also sold the graveyard plot that was reserved for her next to my dad and my grandparents. I saw my aunt about a month ago, looking like she may be homeless and obviously on drugs of some sort. I felt nothing but contempt, and maybe a little schadenfreude. Our next Reddit post is from Pure Pepper. To clear any confusion that might come up, you have to know that I'm a bisexual man. I love sharing this story because I'm still proud of it. A few years ago, my ex-girlfriend cheated on me with another guy. She then had the audacity to tell me that if I was a grown-up that I could deal with it and that she hopes we can still be friends. But she lost any feelings for me and is fully in love with the new guy now. If she hadn't said that, I probably wouldn't have made this plan. But now, I had to teach her a valuable lesson. I was in a depressed state for a long time and couldn't bring myself to delete her number. And she thought that I was her friend now. She started to send me pictures of her and her new boyfriend with laughing emojis. She didn't even care about how much she had hurt me. And then one day, while I went through Tinder, I found someone who was quite familiar. Her new boyfriend. Of course, I wouldn't tell her that her new boyfriend is on Tinder. In fact, I matched with him, which was quite surprising because I thought that he was straight and we started having a conversation. He didn't know who I was. My ex never told him that she was in a relationship while she was flirting with him. But this was perfect. We had longer conversations and he told me more and more about him. Over the week, we learned more and more about each other, and now I had a plan. I suggested that we would meet each other at a bar. He agreed. Keep in mind, he was still in a relationship with my ex-girlfriend at that time. When we met, we had a great time, and one date became many dates. It took me a few months, but then I got him to the point where he developed feelings for me, and I was his affair partner. What he didn't know is I got in contact with my girlfriend's former ex-boyfriend as well. He broke up with her because he came out as gay. I was in contact with both guys. The ex-boyfriend and I got along very well. In fact, I made him a close friend of mine. In our conversation with my new boyfriend, we talked about sexual desires, and he told me he always wanted to have a threesome. So I suggested one with the gay ex-boyfriend. I knew that he was his type because we kinda look alike and he had feelings for me, so I asked the gay ex-boyfriend if he wanted to become the third one, and to my surprise, he said yes. Then the action started. Of course, I won't go into any details, but man, I enjoyed it more than anything in the world. A few days after this, I told him that now that I granted him the wish of a threesome, I wanted something in return. I told him that I don't want to be in an affair any longer, and told him that he should either break up with her or I'll break up with him. I knew that this was hardcore manipulative, but I had a plan and I had full control over him. He actually broke up with her and threw her out. I even got him to move out of his apartment to move in with me, meaning that she lost both her home and her boyfriend. But I wasn't done yet, because after that, she texted me with crying emojis that her boyfriend dumped her and that she regrets leaving me. I then said, "Your boyfriend? Are you talking about this guy?" And I sent her the selfie I took. She called and texted me several times, but I ignored her. My plan was almost successful. There were only 3 things left that I still had to do. The first was that I told her mother, who hates infidelity more than anything because her father cheated on her mother with another woman. You could say, like father, like daughter. Her mother was angry, but thanked me for telling her. From what I've heard, her mother cut ties with her. But I admit that I don't know if that actually happened. And I don't think that it happened. But it would be funny if it was true. The second thing I did was dumping him because, unfortunately for him, he was a cheater too, and I hate infidelity as well. The last thing I did was going out with the gay ex-boyfriend, and after a few dates we got together and we're still a couple. In the end, I destroyed both her and the guy she cheated on me with, and couldn't be more proud with myself. Well, OP, your ex-girlfriend certainly has a type. Closeted gay men. Our next Reddit post is from Mel Melissa. I live with my mom. She's quiet, keeps to herself, never bothers anyone. A few months ago, our new neighbor decided to report her to the city for having an illegal shed in the backyard. It was total BS. The shed's been there for years and has full permits. An inspector came out, checked everything, and left without saying a word. But the neighbor, smug, proud, thought he'd scared us. So I did a little digging. Turns out his brand new pool was way too close to the property line and illegally built over a utility easement. I reported him, attached photos, quoted city codes. 2 weeks later, the city ordered him to either move it, which was impossible, or fill it in. He lost the whole thing. $40,000 down the drain, literally. Now, he gets to look at our completely legal shed every day, while standing over a pile of dirt where his pool used to be. Mom sleeps great now. That was r/nuclear revenge, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.